Hey, friends! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host, Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey, Hallmarkies! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and today I am joined once again by my friend, Catherine, from the RomCom trivia experience to chat about The Magic of Lemon Drops, starring Ian Harding and Lindsay Fonseca. It was written by Tracy Andreen and directed by McLean Nelson. When Lolly's Aunt Gert gives her 4 magical lemon drops, she gets to experience what her life would have been like if she had made different choices and lived those unfulfilled dreams. Welcome back to the podcast, Catherine.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this one.
Of course, me too. Yes, I'm very excited to chat about this movie. But before we get started, just a little off topic for a second, going to When Calls the Heart, you were just at HFR. So would you like to share a little bit about your experience at HFR?
Yes. Well, number one, absolutely can't wait to go back to Vancouver. Did not get enough time to explore that at all. So if anybody has the opportunity to go to Vancouver, just in general, do it. It's so beautiful up there. I mean, we are a community, no matter how you say it. But to really actually experience the family aspect of it, and with people that I had known, especially from the McGarry's community, had known, but immediately connected with, like as if they were like your long lost friend, just completely blew that out of the water for me. And then also I felt that way with people that I hadn't met before. And so it was just, I mean, my heart's still full. I've been home for almost a month and I could, the truth about going back there is and wanting to just live there. And I'm not saying that I would want to because I'd miss the air conditioning and a few other things. But oh, seriously, just put me in Hope Valley. It was fantastic. Of course, the cast was a lot of fun to be able to see them interact in person. And Ben Rosenbaum was probably, I mean, he wasn't a surprise for me because his personality from social media, but I guess I just wasn't quite aware of how funny he was. And so it for me, he was probably my favorite takeaway out of all of it, just because he like I love Elliot. I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but Elliot didn't introduce him right away. And
I
so
remember
he
seeing
like
that.
so he's poking his head out from the back, and finally he's like, well, forget that. I'm going to introduce myself, kind of a thing. And so then he takes off and he runs through one side of the room and then
Yep.
does the high fiving around the tables. And then when he comes up, they're like, oh, you kind of took the long way to get here. He goes, yeah. And
Yeah.
when I leave, I'm going that way. And then the entire cast went out with him the other way too. And it just was so much fun to watch that. I really did a
Yeah.
lot of observing versus,
Mhm.
just because I wasn't as a meeting planner too, I'm just kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm always the one in the background anyways, so I really am an observer at these. But it was like I couldn't believe like all the interactions that everybody had, including with the cast, as when they were out there like for doing
Yeah.
pictures and stuff like that before they would go up to the green room. And so it was just, yeah, I had a blast and hope to be able to go back again.
I hope you can too, and hopefully I can as well in the
Yes,
future.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
We need a well, number one, they need to either have it be a week long and maybe do it in
Yeah.
groups so that you can, because
Yes.
there's so many people that, of course, would
Go
love
to
the
it. Yeah.
opportunity.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
it was so cool. You met Jeanette Oak and Michael Landon
yes,
Jr. and Brian Bird, of course. Yeah.
yes. And then the Melissa Gilbert was, I mean,
And
when they
Melissa.
when they were talking about, they're just like, we want to merge the fandoms. And then, what better way to have than bring a character or bring an actress or actor
Yeah.
from the show.
From the
Never
house.
in
Yeah.
my wildest dreams did I think it was going to be Melissa Gilbert. I was
No.
like, I mean, like immediately I was thinking because of the fact that Little House on the Prairie is currently in its 50th anniversary
Mm-hmm.
year. So they
Yeah.
were doing events around the United States. And
Mm-hmm.
so my mind went to, I was literally trying to think of who are the ones that have been touring with that. Because I was just thinking, okay,
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones who would be the most prominent and maybe would want to
Mm-hmm.
reprise something along in this,
Yeah.
whether obviously they wouldn't be the same character, but
No.
like,
Yeah.
so I was like, oh, is it going to be the lady who played Nellie Olson? Like Amanzo right away came to me.
Allison. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're like, and Melissa Gilbert. I was like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I can't
Amazing.
wait to see that. And I hope that, as they said, she's going to be on for 2. And I really hope that they figure out a way to keep her
Yeah.
character coming
I
back.
hope so
I don't
too.
even know
Yeah.
anything about her character besides her name, but I mean, I'm already excited.
Oh, yes, me too. I remember watching the video, the live from Instagram. Not live. I think I missed that one. But I did watch it back. And I just got so much nostalgia when he said Melissa Gilbert. I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah, yes. The only surprise I had out of everything, what I would say was I was not prepared for the main cast to be the first ones on Saturday morning. I just
Okay.
was, usually you end with your headliner. And so
Yes.
so I was like, I was in the middle because Stephanie and I were sitting next to each other and we're both taking turns to go live.
Hmm.
And so it's like, okay, I'm gonna as soon as they had stopped with the announcements and everything, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go
Hmm.
ahead and I'm gonna shut down and you keep going and then we'll switch off. And all of a sudden so then Brian Bird's like, oh, I've gotten the notice that I'm able to go ahead and go. He goes, AKA, my wife has texted me. And then he's like, so firstly, here comes Andrea. I was like, and I was like looking down, trying to make sure that my video had saved that
Yeah.
had just closed, that I totally
Hmm.
missed Kevin walking. And so
Oh no.
like, thankfully Stephanie had kept going so I could relive it that way. But I was
Hmm.
like, that was not, that being them being the first was not what I was expecting. And then I did talk
Oh
to one
yeah.
lady who had been there before, and she goes, "Oh yeah, they're always first." I'm like, "Oh, I should have asked what the order
Oh
was."
yeah.
So so then that was, I guess it was. I mean, who doesn't want to start off with a bang? But it was just,
Hmm.
like I
Yeah.
said, that was
Yes.
not what I was expecting.
Yes. So getting to the topic at hand, the magic of lemon drops. First off, I have to say the writing and directing was just fantastic from Tracy and McLean.
Hmm.
Great job.
Yes. My immediate first impression was glee and excitement because I actually live in Lakeville, Minnesota.
That's awesome.
Granted, I live in the Bermuda Triangle, so my mailing address is Rosemont, and I have an Apple Valley phone number, but I pay Lakeville taxes, so I live in
Oh, yeah.
Lakeville. And so out of all the cities, when like if you've
Hmm.
noticed, Minnesota has been in quite a few things lately, it seems like.
Yeah.
But it was for that to be the one that was just
Hmm.
picked, put in there was fun. And so then I immediately fell in love with the movie. Didn't have to see anything else. I knew I was going to
Hmm.
love it. And I was so happy that you know, I absolutely loved it. And that is a genuine, I could watch this
Hmm.
over and over and over again.
That's
And it's
great. Yeah.
really hard to, sometimes it's hard to find those movies.
Hmm.
So it was fun that it had that connection to it too.
Yeah, I think so too. And the cast, the whole ensemble cast was, I think,
Yes.
great.
Yes. And I agree with you. Lindsay and Ian, their chemistry
Hmm.
was
Yeah,
fantastic.
I
And
think so too.
I wish, I am sorry, I don't remember what the actress's name was. I loved Aunt Gert. Like
Yes.
she was so fun.
Aunt Gert was played by Miriam Bernstein or
Okay.
Bernstein, if I pronounced that correctly.
She's obviously been in enough that I recognized her from something. I just
Hmm.
don't know like what the
Yeah,
other ones
same.
were, but I think for me, I actually have some aunts that are very similar to Aunt Gert with
Hmm.
their
Yeah,
I like to call it beating to their own drum. But
yeah.
at the same time, I was like, I would want one a step more like her, and I would like some of those magic lemon drops myself, please.
Yeah.
That's actually a question I have for you. If you could,
Yeah.
would you partake in this kind of a thing?
Mm, probably. I
It's
probably would. I
a
would just
hard,
have.
yeah, it's a hard one. I definitely want to say yes. There are lots of things I'd want to go back and re-examine what that would have looked like. But then at the same time, you also know that you're on the path you're supposed to be on. But so the whole movie resonated in that aspect with me. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I agree, I liked how they were very they dug into those past stories, but they
Hmm.
also didn't dig too deep into them. So it was just enough to give you a taste. And then it brought you back to the reality, which I really appreciated with that. So I
Yeah.
like the one day. You get to live that for one day versus getting stuck in the time trap over and over again.
Yeah.
So if I could do it that way, 100%.
Yes. It's a tough question. I would have to give it some thought on what
Oh yeah.
I would go back
Yeah.
to.
Like I said, I'd still be thinking about it, but I had some
Hmm.
time to think about it before I asked you. Wink,
Oh,
wink.
yeah. Yes. The costumes were on point. I loved
Mhm.
a lot of the outfits from all of the characters, but especially some of the outfits from Lolly. I would
Oh
totally
yeah.
wear.
My favorite was probably her 90s vibe that she had. I mean, she had a very 90s vibe with
Yeah.
her clothes still. There's one in particular that I'm thinking of, and that is when she goes back and it's her and Rory are together. It's so
Hmm.
her dream number 3. Rory's wearing bell bottoms or very similar to that. And
Yeah.
then the whole look when I was looking at it, I was like, that just had a 90s vibe to it. And those are
Hmm.
definitely back. So
Yes.
um I know, but as Minnesotan, I was also like, do we wear that? Like I was trying to do
Yeah.
some, it's so hard trying
Yes.
not to compare, but to compare.
What did you think about the father-daughter relationship with Marty, Lolly, and Daphne, and then the father-daughter relationship with Rory and Sam?
Well, the father reminded me of my dad in a lot of
Oh,
things. And so
yeah.
in that way, I definitely, and actually the sister reminded me kind of a little bit. I'm telling you, I saw myself in this character. I saw
Oh.
myself in Molly. And so with, in that aspect, I felt that was very true to form of what I would expect based on the personalities of each of the people too.
Hmm.
And also the Minnesota roots in that aspect. I
Hmm.
don't, my family is very family oriented, that you do everything for, like they kept that restaurant open because to him
Hmm.
it was how he was going to honor his wife. And
Yes.
that's very much how I was raised. So in that aspect, it was just like, to me, I wish that for Rory, we would have had the ability to see him interact more with Sam. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we only got such a little itty
Two
bitty snip of
scenes.
it. Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, I guess I do, but I don't understand also at the same time why they didn't have her in the Minnesota, like when he was settled and
Hmm.
when he was home up in the
Yeah.
Bounty Waters, why we didn't have her there in that scene. So
Yeah.
she's an adorable little girl
That's,
though.
yeah. That's one thing I would change about the movie if I could change one thing. Just add more scenes with
Hmm.
Rory and
Yeah.
Sam.
Yep.
And what did you think about the aunt niece relationship with Aunt Gert and Lolly, and then the friendship of Lolly and Eve?
Okay. Well, I actually did write down in my notes that everybody needs a best friend like Eve. I really enjoyed her
Yes,
character.
I do
Yes.
too.
Yeah, she was a lot of fun. Um, and I think for the Aunt Gert, I'm close to some of my aunts, and so and was did she live at their house? Because she had at one point they said, "Is she in her lair?" And
I don't,
so
I don't think
that
they
was
ever
in the same
said.
house. So I didn't know if she just had this secret
Yeah.
little room that she was hanging out in or not.
Yeah.
Um, but what I really loved about Lolly and Aunt Gert is that, she was that mom that she needed,
Mhm.
and you could definitely tell how close they were. And she
Yeah.
just had a heart. And I'm also an aunt of, I don't have kids myself, but my children
Mhm.
are my nieces and my nephew. And I
Yeah.
mean, I couldn't love them anymore if they were my own. And
Mhm.
so I very much, like I said, saw that in there too. I
Yeah.
did pay attention specifically to this one to see if there was
Mhm.
things that we say here. Because I will say I once recently said something to my friend about, well, that's not, wait, what, how did I say this? That's not, what's the cup of tea one?
Mm,
Oh, I'll have to rethink of it.
I can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that friend was like, I have never heard that saying before. And I'm like, we say that all the time here. So that's what I
Oh,
was kind
yeah.
of so that's what I was kind of listening to, was to see how many, like it, because I do not know where the writer was from for this
Mhm.
movie, but
Yeah.
if there was, like how Lakeville was chosen as a location, all that
Mhm.
type of
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know that history. And
Yeah.
but we're very much into German. Our favorite family restaurant to go to is one of those German pubs that's in downtown Minneapolis and St. Paul. And so that resonated with the eatery that they worked at, or
Mhm.
they owned.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for more. That would be the one bummer, that we didn't have a lot of German influence
Mhm.
inside of the set decoration for that.
Oh, yeah. I think my last first impression or hot take I would have to say is I would love another movie with these characters.
Oh, wrote that down too.
Yeah.
High five, we agree. Yes, no, I would love to, and because I would love to see the way that it sounds is that anytime that Rory had come home, he had his wife and his daughter, but she had never,
Hmm.
but obviously Lolly really hadn't been introduced
No.
to Sam.
Mhm.
And so I think that I would love to see that connection too. So yes,
Yeah.
we'd like a second one, please.
Yes. Yes, please, Hallmark, if you are listening. Moving on to highlights. Do you have any notable moments from the movie you would like to mention?
I really appreciated the heart that came
Hmm.
into it, and then the conversations, like specifically the conversation that happened between Lolly and her mom
Hmm.
when she was going back to time with her mom. And that just
Hmm.
there was just notes in there that just made me like stop and pause. And when a movie can
Hmm.
do that, that's always something that I'm going to remember.
Yeah, that was a good scene at the
Hmm.
picnic when they
Yes, the
were
picnic.
lying
Yeah.
down on the picnic blanket. Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
Yes.
another thing too is, it was the constant question of, are you happy with your life? And then also, how can you enjoy your life even if it's not the perfect life that you thought it was going to be? And all of those always make me think. And I do a lot of self-discovery, personally, and a lot more so these last few years. I think a lot of us in the world have. And
Yeah.
it's, so I just, anything that can touch your soul like that and stay with you.
Yeah. I actually have the quote from Irene to
Okay.
Lolly at the picnic. Going back to that scene for a
Okay.
second, she says, happiness is fickle, often based on circumstances. If you chase happiness, you're more often than not going to be disappointed. But following your bliss, that's something entirely different. It means facing your life with honesty and pursuing each spark of joy. It's always there somewhere, in some small thing to be grateful for, something to celebrate, a way to give joy to others, a new way to grow.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
was a
And
great quote.
yes. And I've had the conversation very recently with a lot of people too about how gratitude changes everything. And
Hmm.
and being purposeful in that. And so, and then of course we know the spark joy movement that happened with the,
Mm-hmm.
the Marie Kondo with the cleaning and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And for me, I think that's always what I'm trying to chase is the joy. And there is, and like she said,
Mm-hmm.
it's up to us to be able to,
Mm-hmm.
let some stuff go if it's not what you thought it was going to be, and find the joy
Mm-hmm.
in whatever it is too. So, I mean, we're
Yeah.
always going to struggle with it, but yeah, no,
Mm-hmm.
that was beautifully said.
Yes, it was. And going to the beginning of the movie, the first scene, I just have to mention this because it made me laugh when Lolly is trying to get her dad, Marty, to add the avocado toast to the
Oh,
breakfast menu.
mm-hmm.
And he says, as long as I own the diner and I'm the head cook, we're sticking to the menu your mom put together. None of this foofy stuff.
Well, my two questions are or statements. And number one, I love the fact that she's still mixing it with the traditional of her mom's
Yeah,
menu. She was putting it on German
yeah.
bread, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know avocados were such a big. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love avocado toast,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I didn't know Minnesota and avocados went hand in hand. So I learned
I
something.
didn't I didn't know that either. I love avocados too, though.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, but then it did make me
Yeah.
really want to have some good avocado toast on some German pumpernickel.
Yes. German Dinkelbrot. I think I said that
Well,
right.
I'll take the pumpernickel, but
Yes, I'll probably take the pumpernickel too.
yeah, or yeah. And then her lollipops too.
Yes.
Like, oh my gosh.
Very
Okay,
clever.
that little stand was fantastic. And then
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, how she was trying to keep everything so fresh because of the fact that, once again, not to do too much
Yeah.
comparison, but really in Minnesota, obviously we have hot dishes and eat the schnitzel and have everything
Mm-hmm.
completely fried. Or I mean, our state fair is based on it, everything on a stick and fried.
Yeah.
So it just, so I was just like, I'm like, we actually need that little produce
Mm-hmm.
stand in Lakeville. So if they want to come
Oh,
and put one up, I'm
yeah.
there with those really good lollipops.
Yes. That was actually very clever. And I love how Rory came up with the name. He's just
Mm-hmm.
like Lolly's Pops.
Yeah, they were a good team.
Yes, they were. And funny enough, we actually used to have a store in Mount Pleasant called Lollipops. It was like a kid's store, a toy store.
Oh, did they have homemade suckers?
I think I would have to look it up, but
Okay. Well, and what, and am I not mistaken? Did he call the popsicle a sucker? I think he did. I
I
think
think he might have.
I think at one point he was like, "What are all these suckers do?" Or some, or whatever he said. It wasn't, but it wasn't necessarily a popsicle. And I was like, "That's what we call them, and that's exactly what they are." So,
Another moment that made me laugh was when Lolly had just been talking to her dad about popsicles in the deep freezer.
mhm.
And then she receives a text from Daphne about cleaning the attic, and her dad walks away and she says, you love your family. They don't drive you up the wall. You love your family. You wouldn't change a thing.
Same quote I use a lot where they drive you up a wall. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no. It was well written, and the amount of unexpected little moments of sass and humor with it were perfect for it
Lindsay,
really being such a deep, a deep
mhm.
thoughtful movie. That was just the perfect amount of it.
Yeah, Lindsay did a great job with
Yes,
that.
yes.
What did you think about Lolly and Rory's reunion meet cute?
Okay. Loved it because it was totally something in how I would be in my reaction. And it was total 90s awkward teenage moments that they were, both of them were in their teenage years again.
Yeah,
And then the dog was extra perfect with it too.
yeah,
So no, I
I
liked it.
loved it too. And when she says, "You're back," unless you're a hologram,
Yeah.
Not a hologram.
Yeah. And the poke, poke, poke. I mean, because that's a tough one. Obviously, they had in the real universe, they had a relationship. So, there already had that awkwardness between that. And then
Yes.
she's already, you can tell she's already fondly remembering him before he even comes home
Hmm.
of what could be. And so, yeah, I mean, the awkwardness of it was done to perfection, I thought.
Yes. And this is the second movie that we have reviewed together where there is a Taylor Swift reference in the movie. The Tortured Poets Department.
Well, and I'm not even really, I hate to say this, not really a Taylor Swift fan. I mean, I don't
It's
keep up
okay.
with the trends of Taylor, so
It's all right. I just find it kind of funny. This is the second movie where there's been a Taylor Swift reference.
maybe that'll be like, okay, anytime Taylor's mentioned, Catherine will come on. We're good. I'll have to start actually paying attention to some more pop culture.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Oh.
the other parts that I enjoyed with this was all the references. Okay, I appreciate that we talked about the boundary waters a few times because that's though I don't
Hmm.
know anybody who goes up to the boundary waters that goes up there to a beautiful cabin. So if those aren't my friends, and I'd love to meet somebody who does that. When we
Hmm.
go to the boundary waters, we're talking about portaging through with a
Yeah.
canoe and camping and all that type of stuff. So that in that aspect, that kind of cracked me up. It was like, we're obviously doing the boundary waters wrong here, my
Hmm.
family. But we got the Minnesota Twins in there, we got the
Hmm.
Minnesota Wild in there, and then they
Yep.
named the dog Kirby Puckett after the of course the famous Kirby Puckett player for the Minnesota Twins. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely caught the Minnesota Twins
Yeah. Well, and
reference.
I liked that they separated it because in real life, he was a doctor's physician
Hmm.
or a physician for the
Yeah.
team of a hockey,
Mhm.
professional hockey, and then in the universe, in one of those, then he was for the baseball in order to come home because that was what was available. Because once again, it's your family needs you. You come home and help them out if you can. So
And we did get a couple of other pop culture references when Lolly and Daphne were cleaning out the attic and they find Lolly's diary.
mhm,
Lolly mentions NSYNC, Orlando Bloom. I think Daphne mentions One Direction. She's like, I
mhm.
was more of a One Direction girl.
Yep.
And then Pinterest and Lance Bass.
Yes. And once again, consider me Lolly because let me just say, was sad when my life didn't turn out that I didn't get to marry Lance Bass. He was actually my favorite one.
That's hilarious. I love that.
So I was like, oh,
That's
like
awesome.
sometimes life just doesn't turn out the way you think it's going to turn out.
No. And they also talk about the restaurant that she has dreamed of opening since seventh grade,
Mhm.
Toast. And then she and Daphne have a fight about her applying to the Yoga Instructor Academy in Bali. What did you think about that fight between them?
Well, it's honest conversations that you want.
Yeah.
I feel like poor Nicole and every listener, sorry you're coming to therapy with Catherine. I
So
feel like
good.
those are I mean, like I'm saying, these what
Mhm.
I love and have enjoyed so much about the new way of telling the stories in these movies is that
Mhm.
you can see yourself so much in them. And
Yeah.
I just those are honest conversations that I've had, with own family members or with own family members or friends. And so all of
Mhm.
that just was, I could see myself sitting up in the attic having that conversation.
Mhm.
And then what I appreciated about those conversations is those conversations came into each different version of her universe
Mhm.
that she was in. I mean, if you
Yeah.
think about when she had Toast, so she had the marketing, her sister Daphne had the marketing degree,
Mhm.
and somebody who didn't, like do something with your degree. That's 90% of the people I know in today's world, you
Mhm.
go to school, but that's not where you end up getting your career or your passion from.
Mhm.
And what I appreciated with this one was you knew in the real world it didn't, it wasn't what was going to make her happy, and but
Mhm.
she knew who she was and what would make her happy. And then it took Lolly having to figure out what would make her happy in the other ones, but they carried
Mhm.
over. Like that first thing was she was doing the marketing for her sister's company,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
she had screwed it up and was basically, I've already, so when she's calling her sister for a real, what she's hoping is a connection in heart to heart, because
Mhm.
that's what she's hoping they
Mhm.
have in the real universe. And then for it to
Yeah.
be, to care, I just thought all of that was so brilliantly done
Mhm.
too. There was
Yes,
such
I
good,
agree.
there's such good care with how they
Mhm.
wrote this.
Yeah, I agree. And when Daphne says, maybe I don't want my diary to be full of regrets, I was like,
Right.
ouch,
Yep.
that hurt.
Yep, but it's true, and those are all things that
Hmm.
I think so many of us ask
Yeah,
ourselves.
yes. And I had to laugh when Aunt Gert walks up and she kind of frightens Lolly by
Mhm.
turning on the light. She's like, ah. And
They
then,
really, yeah.
and we see Life One, and I did have to laugh with her initial reaction and the phone conversation with her restaurant manager, India. She says,
Mhm.
what is even happening? Aunt Gert, what did you give me? This is
Yeah.
insane. What's insane?
Yes. And who did not immediately go back to 13 going on 30? I mean, that's exactly what it reminded me of.
Hmm.
We just needed some of those music songs in there.
Yes. That's one of my favorite rom-coms.
Oh, I love that one. That's such a
Yes.
good one.
Yes. And then the mention of the Michelin Man and
Yeah.
Wainwright, and
Yeah.
Lolly's
The puffy
thinking is that
marshmallow guy.
I'm not gonna lie, that's what I thought too at first.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And
He's
then,
just he's just selling tires over there in New York City.
yep. And then when she says on the phone, I'm fine-ish. I'm fine.
Yep.
I'm fine.
Yep.
I just had this weird dream. Maybe it's just sort of lingering. That happens when I mix my melatonin with my energy drinks.
Oh yeah.
Love just how nonchalant she said that. It's like,
Yep.
yep.
Yep. And then what I found interesting with that version too is when she was just like, she's telling the chef what she wants, and she goes, well, I kind of figured I'd get to be the boss of my own restaurant. Like the kitchen is a whole
Yeah.
separate element and their
Hmm.
domain. So
Yep.
I was a little not confused by any means,
Hmm.
because obviously she's the owner of the restaurant, but um because in the current, she obviously
Hmm.
is really good with creating concoctions,
Hmm.
and so I was surprised she also wasn't the chef herself in
Hmm.
scene one. Like that's what surprised me, that there was somebody else that was.
Yeah. Same. I also laughed when she's getting all the messages from the dating app and
Oh yeah.
she comes across the one T-Rex and she's like, T-Rex? Huh? And then she
uh,
sees Rory.
yeah.
It's his new girlfriend.
Yeah. And she's just
Awkward.
very trying to tiptoe to see what their relationship is like in this universe. So yeah.
Awkward.
Yep.
And she's like, yes, of course. You're very welcome. I'm happy to help.
Yep. Yeah, Lindsay did all that brilliantly.
She
She
did,
played it great.
yes. We get Lolly and Aunt Gert talking about dream number one, and Aunt Gert says, if you could choose this version, would you? Lolly states that the restaurant was amazing, as well as all the handsome men in her DMs, but her
Hmm.
dad's health scared her and whatever was going on with Rory.
Hmm.
And Aunt Gert says the lemon drops allow them to view the moments we regret or can't reconcile with fresh eyes. I thought that was a great scene between the two of
Yes.
them.
Yeah. I loved that it was that she was her guardian and guide through all of this
Mm-hmm.
too. That it wasn't
Yeah.
just, like the recap wasn't at the end. Well, what did you
Mm-hmm.
think? It was she knew, Aunt Gert knew she was doing this, and she was doing
Mm-hmm.
this hand in hand with her. So she had somebody
Mm-hmm.
to process everything with.
Yeah. Yes. And if I had to pick between the two scenes we got with Rory and Sam, I think the one when they did the video chat is my favorite.
Oh,
That was such a sweet moment.
that was very sweet. I mean, granted, she was going to her mom's, so she was obviously probably
Mm-hmm.
packing from there. But that little girl was going to Europe for weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and she only hopped in her mom's car with a little backpack.
Yep. Hopefully they had luggage in the back. I'm sure they
Right.
did.
And then the other part of me was just like when she was talking to him via Skype and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
she did say she had to go to bed. So at least they were being truthful to hopefully time
Yes.
zones.
Yes. Another great scene was Rory and Lolly at the log, and this is when she mentions how she didn't like how things ended between them and she apologizes. That
Mhm.
was great.
Yes. Yeah, and for him it was, like I've forgiven you a long time ago, but
Mm-hmm.
he knew that she needed that. And
Yeah.
that's what I think when you knew that there was something there with them, no matter what their distance had
Mm-hmm.
been in their relationship and stuff like that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we find out that Duke was where his dream program for his degree was, and the distance scared her. So instead of supporting him, she pushed him away.
Hmm.
Since he was the one who helped her through everything with her mom, she was afraid to tell him how attached she had become, and she
Hmm.
just basically gave up on their relationship.
Yep.
It's sad, but it's also understandable.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, true to life happens all the time.
Yes. Another great scene, it was brief, but this was in Dream 2 when Irene and Lolly are making the lemon drop pie, and then they go to the eatery, which is now going to be closed because Marty is gone.
Hmm. What I loved about that one was it brought it back to how, once again, in the real world, he's doing this because he feels it's her dream, and her
Mm-hmm.
dream. And even when it comes down to the conversation about
Mm-hmm.
how um Lolly asks if she's okay with the fact that Daphne's over in Bali,
Mm-hmm.
and she's just like,
Yeah.
well, she had, I want her to live her life, and I want her to have
Mm-hmm.
her dreams. And so, it's such especially Lolly is very much in a caregiver role. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're a caregiver, you put yourself aside in order to
Mm-hmm.
do what you feel is best, and then you forget yourself sometimes. And so I just really liked the poignancy of how they brought that up, because then it also was
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to help her with
Yeah.
helping her to help her dad to let it go later
Mm-hmm.
too, because she could see her mom's heart in a way that she hadn't been able to see before. I'm telling you, I
Yes.
was a sopping mess
Yes.
after this one. This one was a really good one.
It was very good. Yes. Moving on to dream number 3, of course, Rory. And their morning greeting was so cute. I said this before, I'm a sucker for the pet names. When he
Oh
said
yeah.
my dear, I was like,
She was just so giddy. Like she's just like, oh, you like, yay, like, because obviously I mean, she gets to dream of what she would like with him, but I still don't think what you're gonna wake up to. And for
yeah,
it, to, like, oh, we have daughters, and all of those things. So it
still
was,
works at
yeah,
the eatery. Yeah.
yeah, yep,
And that kiss before she goes to work. Wow.
yep. Those two had some good sparks.
Yes. Hallmark has really been upping the kisses lately in these movies. I've
They've
said that
sparked
before.
they've sparked it up. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that the look that Lindsay does for Lolly as she's walking away all happy was kind of like the rest of us too. We're like, yep.
So in this dream, Marty has retired and started playing pickleball. Aunt
Hmm.
Gert is in Bucharest, and Daphne is not in Bali, and Rory is a medical sales rep. So a little bit of change from the two other dreams, too.
Hmm. Okay, you'll have to remind me, where was Daphne? Daphne was at the diner too, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
Daphne was
Okay.
at the diner. Yep. I loved the anniversary dinner that we got with the two of them at Trattoria. I think that was the name of the restaurant. That was great. We find out they've been married for 10 years, 3 hours, and 42 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then they talk about their wedding day and when Molly first knew she loved him. And I thought that was really sweet.
Yes. And I love how poignant what she's trying to find out about what makes him happy too. And then that comes back with not to skip too much ahead, but that comes back the next day with the conversation with Aunt Gert about, like, if what makes you happy, if that doesn't help somebody else or whatever, how selfish are you, kind of a thing, or not, that's not what it was, but you get what yeah.
I knew what you meant. Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, how did she word it? Where just like my happiness isn't the same happiness or something for somebody else. I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly what it was, but
Yes.
I appreciated that they brought
Yeah.
because for this one, she was really concentrating. They were a unit. They were a unit that were in love, and so she loves him in this universe and then she loves him in that universe and
Yeah.
wants what's best for him in both. And so
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
that's real
Yeah.
love.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Lolly at the hospital with Rory. Marnie had a health scare and the stroke really messed with his motor skills, balance, and walking, but his language is okay. And of course, physical therapy will be big. What did you think about those scenes? Like when Rory finds Marty and then the one at the hospital.
Um, I think it was fantastic that that happened during the time that she was in her other dream universe with
Yes.
Rory, so that and before that she and Rory had another deep conversation as she was walking back to as he had walked her back to her house.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked how it was sandwiched in with
Yeah.
that. And then and that would have been the person. They had already quickly connected again. So to me, it made sense. And it was a perfect segue for the fact that he was the one
Mm-hmm.
to find her dad. And then,
Yes.
and then he's also the one who she would be asking the questions to because
Mm-hmm.
she trusts him for his knowledge and judgment. And he's also the person that was by her side for her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that wrapping that all back with that was perfect and how they did that. And then, I mean, the dad, he very similar to, like stubborn, wanting to still, have his, like still do what he feels is best. But then his daughter's really telling him it's time to take a break. And this is, your body telling you it's time to take a
Yeah.
break. Um, and things like that. So all of that, I I thought that
Mm-hmm.
those are real conversations once again that we've had at this household.
It
So
was,
in that aspect, I feel like when it's believable and when it's something that you can see yourself in, they've done a really good job with their writing.
yeah, it was well done. It was, of course, hard to watch him
Right.
actually going through it, but it
Mhm.
was done very well.
Yeah.
And I love how Rory was comforting her in the hospital when she said that it felt like deja vu because of
Hmm.
her mom. And it is really amazing how just him leaving his phone at the table
Hmm.
saved his life.
Yep. Yeah. Because she was already asleep. Who would have known, and nobody would have seen him till the next day at that
Mm-mm.
rate.
Yeah. Another one of my favorite scenes was Aunt Gert and Lolly when Lolly is talking about dream number 3 with Rory and how if they'd never broken up and he'd never gone to Duke. And
Hmm.
Aunt Gert says his choices are his choices, even in the other realities. And then Lolly asks advice on what to do next. And I think this is where that quote came in that you just
Yep.
mentioned a few minutes
Yep.
ago. It was a great scene.
Hmm. Yeah, I really heck, I mean, I'm close to my aunts, but I don't,
Hmm.
like I don't think I've had too many of those kind of heart to hearts. And I just, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, Lolly and Eve, when Eve is helping package Lolly's pops
Hmm.
and offering to help her get an appraisal for the eatery from a friend who is a commercial real estate agent. I can't remember if this was before or after the scene with Lolly, Daphne, and Marty, but it was still a great scene.
I really appreciated how Eve, is pushing Lolly a lot.
Hmm.
She is just, she knows her friend, she knows what will make, even if the friend is scared, or even if the friend doesn't know herself,
Hmm.
her friend knows her better than sometimes you know yourself.
Hmm.
And so she was really wanted the best for her in all situations. And so
Yeah.
I thought their friendship was wonderful. And then the
Yeah.
sister relationship, that continued to grow stronger through all of these backwards, or other alternative universes that Lolly had gone through and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
The fact that they tied that all together.
Hmm. Of course, we get the party at the eatery, and I loved Lolly's speech. And then Daphne being accepted into the yoga instructor academy in Bali. She's not sure she should accept because of their dad,
Hmm.
but Lolly encourages her to go anyway and find her bliss.
Hmm.
And then they see the flirting that their dad is doing with Ramona.
Oh, yeah.
And
How is the
Ramona
physical therapist?
was the stepmom in, I think, dream number 1.
Yes. I just love that they brought pickleball in and stuff too, because I mean, we have a pickleball court across the street that is busy. If the sun was up 24 hours a day, it would be busy 24 hours a day.
Wow.
So it is the thing here. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've heard pickleball is very popular. I've never played it, but it looks fun.
It's essentially, I mean, all they did was we had tennis courts, and then they just came in and reconstructed
Mhm.
them and made them smaller courts. And that's all I know about it. It's just that
Yeah.
but
Oh,
it's popular enough that the
mhm.
Hallmark Christmas cruise does have pickleball happening. So
That's good.
Hallmark loves their pickleball.
And then Lolly has a conversation with Eve about her career shift with Lolly's pops, and she receives something in the mail from Rory. It is a note along with a necklace. And
Hmm.
I love how when Lolly gets up, Eve and Daphne are still sitting there and they're like, let's read the note.
Yeah. Well, of course we're going to. Yeah.
Of course, we're going to read the note.
Um, I thought, and the fact that she immediately has to show Aunt Gert because
Gert.
they've done this journey
Hmm.
together, and then with her saying specifically, "This is my fourth magic lemon drop."
Yep, the
Yeah.
necklace is her fourth lemon drop.
Yep.
Yep, I think you were saying about this scene a little while ago, giving up what she really wanted.
Right. And by this time, she and Rory have already known that they'd want to be together if
Hmm.
possible. But like she said, we're doing the
The
mature thing this
timing.
time around, and the timing, and trusting the timing of, or how much does timing really matter, like, because life is
Hmm.
short too, which is kind of
Hmm.
when we get to the next scene kind of a thing. So
Yes. Yep. But she still gets what she wants anyway because she goes to see Rory at the cabin and I love how the first thing she says, or one of the first things she says is, I'm not a hologram and I don't have to take a nap. And he's
Yeah.
like, you're never gonna let me live that down, are you?
The nap one was, I mean, he did have, do we know where he came from? Did he come from Chicago area? I mean, I don't think we
I
ever
don't think
really
they
knew.
said.
Yeah, I don't think we
Mm-mm.
ever knew where he came from. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt that
Yeah,
that first day he had a long nap or he needed a long nap after a drive.
yeah.
No, it was, the kiss was amazing. I
Mm-hmm.
literally, I just rewatched it before we came and did this and had all the feels yet again.
Yep,
And my favorite was the end.
yep. Kirby, the dog,
Yep,
pushing them in the lake.
yep. Welcome home. And for her, she's just like, she poured out her heart and she's just like,
Mm-hmm.
you're worth waiting for.
Yep.
Yep.
That was a great moment between them. The end,
Mhm.
maybe?
Now I have to go rewatch it again, Nicole.
Yeah. Moving into our ratings, what would you give this for cast on a scale of 5?
I give it 5. I enjoyed
I
everyone.
gave it, yeah, I gave it a 5 too.
Yeah.
Chemistry.
Oh, once again, 5. And that includes everybody. I thought
Yeah,
everybody was good in their role.
yeah, I said 4.5 out of 5, which is pretty close to 5.
Why was the little Nick? Was what
Oh,
what else
just,
did you want?
I
More
don't even
more
know.
more steam.
No,
That's just me.
I don't mind some. I don't mind some. I don't think Hallmark is ever going to take it over the top, and that's okay with me. But what we've been getting, I think
Yeah.
that's just enough.
Oh yeah, no, no. It was
Yes.
perfect.
Setting.
Um, well, okay, this isn't fair because once again, I live here. I was like, oh, I wish Lakeville looked like that. I wish, like, I mean, I love,
Yeah.
and so for me, it was so hard for some, I mean, they were very true to some things.
Mm-hmm.
But in that aspect, so I give it, what, for what it was, if I didn't know the area, I'd give it
Mm-hmm.
a 4 out of 5. But as somebody who lives there, I was being a little harsher on it with a 2.5 to 3, just
Okay.
because I'm just like, that's, once again, I wish we had some of these things here. And some of those houses
Yeah.
were insanely gorgeous. That's just not the area that I live in. So
Oh, yeah.
I really wanted more German in the diner.
Yeah, that would have been fun. I gave it 3.5. So
Okay.
a little bit more. It was beautiful, but I do
Yeah.
wish it had been, I think, a little more accurate, is what you said, with some
Mhm.
things. I
Yeah.
think that would have been nice. And story.
When it's something I can rewatch over and over and over again, and I already know
5.
that immediately I wouldn't get tired of it, it gets an automatic 5 from me.
Yeah, I gave it a 5 too. And overall,
5.
yeah, I gave it 5 too.
Yep.
Such a good movie, and hopefully there will be a sequel in the future.
Fingers
Fingers
are
crossed.
crossed.
Yes. Well, this was so much fun, Catherine. Thank you again for joining me for this
Oh, well,
review. I
thank
can't
you.
wait to have you back.
Thanks again for inviting me, and I can't wait to
Of
come
course.
back. And
Yes.
I'm sure that we'll have lots of movies. I mean, well, obviously we have lots of movies. Christmas is around the corner.
Yes. I would love to talk about some of the Christmas movies with you as well.
Absolutely, anytime. I'd love
Yes.
to come back. Thank you.
Yes, of course. All right, Hallmarkies, I think that wraps up our review of The Magic of Lemon Drops. If you enjoyed this episode and are watching on YouTube, you can like this video and share your thoughts about the movie in the comments. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure to rate and review, as your feedback is always greatly appreciated. If you want to stay up to date on all of my episodes, you can subscribe to this channel on YouTube or follow along on Spotify. And make sure to turn on the bell so you are alerted when new episodes come. You can also find the podcast on Instagram and Facebook at Swing My Heart Podcast and Twitter at Swing My Heart Pod. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you next time. We love y'all. Bye.